Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for being at our virtual council meeting for Wednesday, October the 27th. I just wanted to take a moment and remind you that this meeting is being audio and video recorded and shall form and live streamed and shall form part of the town's record for which will be retained. And to find out more about the town's retention bylaw, you can call the clerk's office. I would also like to acknowledge that the town of Innisfil is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history. We also acknowledge that this land is the traditional territories of the First Peoples of Turtle Island. It is shared between the Anishinaabe peoples of Beausoleil First Nation, the Chippewas of Rama First Nation, and the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation, and we thank them for their generous generations of stewardship. This meeting place is still home to many Indigenous people, and as settlers, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. The town acknowledges the forced sacrifices that are the foundation of Canadian society today. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit peoples. It's a very special evening this evening, Council, on a number of fronts, but I'm going to start with just a few quick remarks. First and foremost, I want to express Council's deep gratitude to Mike Melanishin, our CFO and Director of Corporate Services, for stepping in as interim CAO and at the beginning of September. Mike's leadership has been invaluable during the transition to our new CAO. Mike, thank you so much. I was hoping I could get him to turn his camera on, but.
Thank you, Your Worship. Truly appreciate it. Great learning experience, great time. Absolute pleasure working with council and staff on this one. Anytime.
Thank you, and it wasn't boring. We made sure that there was lots of excitement during your time as interim CAO, and you handled it brilliantly. Thank you so much.
Your Worship, that is very true. Thank you. That it was exciting for sure. Appreciate it.
Thanks. And now also I'd like you to please join me in welcoming our new CAO, Oliver Gershow, in his new position and his first official council meeting. I know I speak for the entire council when I say we are looking forward to working with you. So if you could just turn your camera on, please, Oliver, just so people can get to know you, that would be wonderful.
Thank you so much, Mayor Dolan. It's a privilege and a pleasure to serve the people of Innisfil, and it's great to be here week number 1.
Thank you. So now let's get started with our council meeting. The first item on the agenda is the open forum, but we have had no people sign up for that opportunity today. So we'll go to 3.1, which is the approval of the agenda. We do have one item we would like to move. So item C1, which is the staff report regarding the regional health center campus in Innisfil. We want to move that to directly follow presentation by the board chair and the president and CAO. Is there concurrence for that to happen this evening? Thank you very much for that. So with a mover and a seconder then to approve the agenda as amended, that would be Councillor Payne and Councillor Fowler. All those in favor? That is carried. Next, I'll ask if there's any disclosures of interest. Is there any conflicts on this evening's agenda? Seeing none, if one becomes apparent to you during our conversation, please let us know at that time. And now we'll go to item 5, which is presentations and petitions. We have one this evening, and that is the Innisfil Pitchin Working Committee annual presentation. And we'll let you do that presentation, and then we'll get a mover and a seconder for the recommendation. Mr. Chair, are you leading this?
Yes, I am, Your Worship. Thank you. All right. 1 second. There we go. Good evening, my fellow Innisfilians. Tonight, as the chair of the Innisfil Pitch-In Committee, I am privileged to share with you the following update regarding our Pitch-In event. We have one more slide, I believe. Yes. This year, following provincial COVID-19 protocols and the town of Innisfil's safety regulations, we on the committee made a unified decision to postpone the 2021 Pitch-In Day to the fall. Through detailed and careful planning, we were able to organize a modified Pitch-In Day that coincided with Canada's National Cleanup Day that was held on Saturday, September 18th, 2021. Residents collected previously prepared kits, 80 in total, that included several garbage bags, gloves, sanitizer, gel packs, safety guidelines, and a bag of goodies. The fact that all 80 kits were taken proves once again that given the opportunity to put positive energy into our town, there is no shortage of incredible people living in Innisfil. Next slide, please. Articles, posts, and the short video created by Dominic Bianchi helped to make this a successful event. We on the committee are very proud of the community members who strive to improve and maintain the natural beauty of Innisfil no matter what stands in their way. The committee received numerous nominations for Innisfil's Debbie Mills Civic Pride Award, an award that has existed since 2013 to recognize the dedication of individuals in our community and have taken upon themselves to maintain and clean Innisfil all year round. Normally, this award is presented to the worthy recipient at a public council meeting. However, as our meetings have been virtual and social distancing requirements remain in play, the committee opted to present this award to the winner at home along with the opportunity to have their family close at hand. Next slide, please. The committee proudly announces that the recipient of the 2021 Debbie Mills Civic Pride Award is Mr. Yun Slick. Hopefully, Mr. Slick is currently watching via the town's YouTube channel this evening, and as stated before, has been presented with a signed certificate of appreciation, and his name has also been added to the Debbie Mills Civic Pride Award plaque for his continued efforts and integral desire to keep his community clean and beautiful. We on the Pitch-In Committee wish to extend our deepest appreciation to Mr. Slick. Next slide, please. Thank you. This year, an online registration form was created where volunteers could sign up to participate, and everyone that registered online was entered into a random prize draw. As a volunteer appreciation barbecue could not be hosted, the committee used their donation budget and donations from the community to pay it forward and give back to the sponsors who have supported the Pitch-In Committee over many years. The 55 registrants were invited to attend the October 7th meeting, and using an online random name prize program, we selected 16 winners for the prizes available that supported nothing but local businesses and sponsors in Innisfil. So, next, all right, thank you. Here are a few photos of our wonderful community taking part in Pitch-In Day. I would be remiss if I also didn't extend the committee's gratitude and appreciation to our customer service team, and on top of all they do, worked hand in hand with operations, taking calls and collecting bags that our industrious residents left for us. Without the teamwork from all involved, none of this would be possible. The Pitch-In Committee, including myself, Vice Chair Sue Bennett, Al Gilchrist, Lynn Chernurpy, Chip Perney, sorry, Ann Kell, Rick Fearman, and Kim Creamer wish to thank everyone that participated in the 2021 Pitch Up Cleanup Day. I look forward to what the next event will bring. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Councillor Fowler. Can I please ask the members that are on line here if they could please turn their cameras on? I did see Sue Bennett there, the Vice Chair, and Al Gilchrist. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We very, very much appreciate all of your efforts, and I'll throw it open to Council if they have any questions or comments. Councillor Orsatti.
Thank you. I just want to thank the committee, the chair and the committee members, and to all the volunteers in Innisfil that got involved. As you had mentioned, Councillor Fowler, it is a difficult year, but you know, our town residents always rally to come on board and help out whenever they can. I just one question about seeing the painting of removing tagging of look like the hydro boxes or something. Is that something new with the program? I don't remember that.
It was a gentleman that took it upon himself to clean a few of the hydro boxes. He saw somebody spray painting them, and then without anyone asking, just gave of himself and did his best to make sure they looked professional.
Yeah, to be commended. Thank you again to all the volunteers.
Thank you, Councillor Van Berkel.
I too wanted to thank the committee and all the volunteers and staff for the great job they've done. And I hope that people in Innisfil appreciate what the committee has done, and that they try and, you know, instead of opening their window and throwing out a pizza box, to take it home and put it in their garbage, because it really is an effort from the entire community to keep Innisfil clean. Thank you, Ken, and committee.
Thank you, Councillor Van Berkel. I have one burning question. Oh, I think Councillor Nichols beat me to it. Councillor Nicholl.
Sorry, Your Worship. Yeah, yes. You know, obviously a lot of great volunteering that went on there. But I did have a question that is near and dear to my heart. I'm just curious if there was a golden broom and whether it would remain in my house or whether it's being passed on to another recipient. But I have to believe that Ward 7 really was represented, especially with some locals like Mr. Crowder and Ms. Loader that also kicked in the next week. So just curious if there is a golden broom that I'm expecting. Is there a knock at my door, or did I finally lose out after 3, 4, I can't remember how many years now. So thank you.
Who won the golden broom, Mr. Chair?
Sadly, due to the fact that we had online registration, we were unable to track people's addresses. So at this point in time, we were unable to award the golden broom, but I think nobody on council will begrudge Councillor Nicholl for holding on to it for another year just to keep it safe for everybody.
although he didn't win it, he just gets to hold on to it.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Your Worship. And unfortunately, I missed this year. I do promise to be back in it again next year. And I congratulate Ken for all that you've done for this. And you did a good job. And thank you to all the residents that are in Innisfil for helping clean up Innisfil, making it the beautiful place that it is. So we look forward to next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Fowler?
Just one thing I'd like to add, Your Worship. When I went out the morning of pitch-in, I did a certain section that I claimed from Ward 5, and then I took bags and cases of water, and I went around trying to find people who needed more bags, more assistance, just to keep everybody's spirits up. What I noticed is, this is what really impressed me, was that by 10:30 or 11 o'clock, no matter where I went in Innisfil, there were more yellow bags than people. Like, everyone got up super early. Everybody literally went out before, I think some people went out just as the sun was rising to clean up. And it was amazing. It was just like, Like everybody's heart literally grew 2 sizes that day. It was incredible to see. And it's something that when I was going around looking for people to help, all I saw was the results of the help they gave us. So that's phenomenal. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Councillor Waters.
I was just going to say here to Councillor Fowler for being committed to making sure the day went off during a pandemic. So kudos to you and all the committee members and all the volunteers. So it all helps make for a much safer and cleaner community. So job well done.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. And here's hoping we can get back to normal next year and the schools can come out as they normally do. So can I get a mover and a seconder, please, for the presentation? Moved by Councillor Van Berkel and seconded by Councillor Waters. All those in favor? That is carried. Thanks, everyone. Our next delegation is very exciting. And I would like to welcome both Charlotte Wallace, the chair of the RVH board, and President and CEO Janice Scott. Welcome to our meeting.
Well, thank you so much. Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. My name is Charlotte Wallace, and I'm chair of the Royal Victoria Regional Health Centre Board of Directors. This evening, I'm joined by Janice Scott, RVH President and CEO, and we're very pleased to have the opportunity to come before Council and members of the community who are joining virtually tonight to provide another update on RVH's long-range expansion plan. As you know, RVH launched its planning exercise 3 years ago, and we're so grateful that municipalities have been involved every step of the way. The town of Innisfil provided guidance and perspective from the very beginning through Mary Dolan and former CAO Jason Rayner, who sat on our Board of Directors Capital Planning Committee. We've also benefited from having Innisfil resident Chris Garapi sit on our board's South Campus Site Selection Committee. You'll know Chris as chair of the Bradford West Gwillimbury Innisfil Police Services Board. That insight and advice has been invaluable to us over the past 3 years as we boldly planned for the future. Developing a South Campus has been part of RVH strategy for over 20 years. We know a hospital has been part of the town of Innisfil's vision for some time as well. 65% of Innisfil residents already receive their hospital care at RVH, but as the population of South Simcoe continues to explode, healthcare must be more accessible. RVH is a key part of Innisfil's future. Likewise, Innisfil is an important part of RVH's plan. Tonight, we want to provide you with a very important update and ask for Council's support as we work together to bring healthcare closer to home for your constituents as soon as possible. Thank you for this opportunity, and I'll turn it over now to Janice Scott, RVH President and CEO.
Thanks so much, Charlotte, and good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. I want to begin by thanking Mayor Dolan, Deputy Mayor Davidson, and members of Council for joining us on October 13th to announce the location of RVH's future South Campus. All councillors were in attendance. What a statement about your commitment to RVH's South Campus. You can't see them, but hidden behind the masks are some very, very big smiles. As you know, as you are all now aware, RVH's South Campus will be located here in Innisfil on an 83-acre site at the southwest corner of Yonge Street and Innisfil Beach Road, just south of Stroud. We acquired this property from the well-respected ICES family, which has deep business and philanthropic roots in Innisfil. And we were thrilled to have members of the ICES family in attendance when we announced the location. I know you're all very familiar with this location, ideally located directly across from Innisfil Civic Campus and with the Rizzardo Health and Wellness Center. In 2019, RVH opened a variety of outpatient clinics in the Rizzardo Center. And since then, those clinics have logged more than 5,000 visits. During the pandemic, RVH also operated a testing clinic at Rizzardo. We've received so much positive feedback from area residents about the convenience of these clinics, especially for people who use our services regularly. Those clinics at the Rizzardo Center represent step one in RVH's long-range, one system, two site plan for the future. The next 3 steps will happen over the next decade. First, we will develop and redevelop space within our current facility or the North Campus. This is known as the pre-tower phase. We'll also begin construction on the South Campus, which will begin as an outpatient health hub. Back at Georgian Drive, we will build a large inpatient tower. The next stage of the graduated model would be to add some inpatient beds at the South Campus, all with an eye to developing a full-service hospital within 20 years at the South Campus. Now, this image will not be the final design of the facility. That will be developed through further consultation with our community. But it gives you a sense of how the South Campus will expand over 20 years. As noted earlier, the first phase, completed in 10 years, will be a health hub focused on outpatient clinics, day surgeries, as well as an urgent care center. Then in 15 years, we'll add inpatient units that aren't dependent on an emergency department, such as seniors care or rehabilitation. It's very important to note the North and South Campus are completely interdependent. One can't proceed without the other. Services within the two campus plan are integrated, not duplicated. So for example, while Innisfil residents will receive advanced cardiac care at the North Campus, their diagnostics and follow-up could occur at the South Campus. Within 20 years, the South Campus will evolve to be a full-service acute care hospital with a 24/7 emergency department, birthing units, and operating rooms. At maturity, the South Campus will house almost 290 inpatient beds and include space for our partners so we can better coordinate care. Just to give you some perspective, the size of the South Campus at completion will be about the size of RVH today. The impact on the healthcare of South Simcoe residents will be significant. The Health Hub, the first phase of the South Campus, which will be built in 10 years, will see 240,000 patient visits a year. And as you can see, an example in the type of visits, including 50,000 cancer clinic visits. Once the full service hospital opens within 20 years, the numbers will increase significantly. We would expect to see more than 350,000 patient visits each year, including 60,000 emergency department visits and over 100,000 imaging scans, such as MRI and CT. Just pause and think how far this community has come. It was just a decade ago that Innisfil only had 3 family physicians, and none were able to accept new patients. This community has made significant strides in bringing care closer to home. Build it, and they will come. While the South Campus is being developed, the current North Campus on Georgian Drive will expand. In fact, it will double in size, enabling us to focus on more acute, complex services and procedures, such as radiation treatment for cancer patients and advanced cardiac care. The North Campus will start with maximizing the existing building, including the empty shelled units that were built as part of the 2012 expansion. This will allow us to expand specialized clinical services such as critical care, cancer care, mental health, and neonatal intensive care. We'll also expand our non-clinical building called Rotary Place, which includes our lodge for cancer patients from across Simcoe Muskoka. This will free up space in the main building for patient care. Then a new 9-story inpatient tower will house additional beds and new operating rooms. In total, this part of the project will add more than 240 beds to the North Campus, bringing the total to 630. Now I want to take a moment to tell you a bit about how we chose the South Campus location, because it was extremely thorough and is a very thorough and transparent process. Our overriding goal was pretty straightforward: find the best location for the South Campus, full stop. RVH's site selection committee began with a 225 square kilometer area in Innisfil and South Barrie, where almost 50 potential sites were assessed. Those sites fell generally into 4 zones. Zone 1, the Highway 400 corridor; Zone 2, South Barrie; Zone 3, Yonge Street corridor; and Zone 4, the 6th line and Yonge Street. Through a survey in which 1,000 people participated, the majority of Innisfil residents favored the Yonge Street corridor as the location for RVH's South Campus. Technical experts assessed the site using 23 mandatory and desirable criteria and over 2,000 data points. They also analyzed the potential impacts on road and air traffic, parking, air quality, soil, noise, natural heritage. Those are those features like wetlands and woodlots. In the comprehensive due diligence report, 10 independent technical experts all concluded the property at Yonge Street and Innisfil Beach Road is the ideal location for a future hospital. So while the technical experts were doing their work, RVH was busy consulting with area residents. Broad, genuine community consultation was foundational to our planning exercise. And since 2018, we have logged an unprecedented 57,000 engagement interactions, and we received more than 45,000 comments. That's an incredible level of consultation. We knew how important it was that everyone had a voice through every step of the process. Using a variety of engagement tools, we consulted with diverse and vulnerable populations, Indigenous and Francophone partners, patients, families, staff, physicians, volunteers, and donors. We talked to people during focus groups, partner summits, presentations, listening sessions, surveys, social media polls, and interactive design sessions. We even had an RVH innovative street team, spoke with residents at farmers markets, community events, grocery stores, even at the beach. The comments informed the site selection and location, and it also informed the building design and clinical services that would be offered. And simply put, the community spoke and RVH listened. In phase one of our consultation, residents were very clear about their priorities when it came to choosing a site for a South Campus. They told us they wanted easy access to Highway 400 with multiple access points from main arterial roads, central to population centers in Innisfil as well as Barrie, close to Rosardo Health and Wellness Center and Innisfil Civic Campus, a flexible site that allows for future expansion, accessible by public transit in the future, ability to begin construction, including water and sewer servicing as soon as possible, and a location that minimizes the impact on communities and the environment, particularly Lake Simcoe. Well, I'm happy to report that this location checks all those boxes. As you know, this site is centrally located to communities in Innisfil, as well as the largest population center of Barrie. It's close to Highway 400, so important for emergency situations. There's access to the South Campus from both Innisfil Beach Road and Yonge Street, and that dual access is very important and was a search priority for us. Both roads will be expanded to 4 lanes within the next decade. There are also plans to widen the 7th and the 6th lines, so there will be alternate east-west routes, important again given weekend traffic and road closures due to inclement weather. Access by future public transit was important to residents, and this site is located along a GO bus line with multiple stops along Yonge Street. We don't anticipate many patients will use the GO train to come to the hospital, but for staff and the soon to be constructed GO train is nearby. More importantly, Innisfil is working on a long-range transit plan that includes fixed route transit, and the transportation plan identifies the hospital as campus as a key transportation node of the future. It was also important that we chose a site that could be serviced quickly, and in fact, key services are already in place as a result of the work being completed at Innisfil Beach Road and Yonge Street. And Innisfil planners confirmed that planned infrastructure upgrades, including water and sewers, can accommodate a future hospital at this location. This location was also aligned with the town of Innisfil's 2018 official plan, which identifies the need for a hospital in Innisfil, and I quote, likely to be located outside of a settlement area due to its unique needs. The town has also identified the Civic Campus as the future community hub for recreation, cultural, and community services. Having a hospital across the street will further anchor that location. There's no question that Innisfil is a special place, and that's why people want to live here. We don't want to lose the things that make Innisfil unique. Having healthcare easily accessible will only enrich the community. The detailed site plan for this property will be developed through further community consultation, but this image at least gives you a sense of how we might maximize the 83-acre site. The site is more than large enough to accommodate the 3 phases of the South Campus, which is shown really in the middle of the image, and ensure that RVH can continue to evolve and expand beyond our 20-year plan to meet the needs of area residents. You can see there's also significant space to include associated services, perhaps a physician or other medical offices, clinics, an academic partnership with a university or a college, perhaps a health innovation center. The property size was a very important factor in our search. RVH on Georgian Drive on our North Campus sits on less than 40 acres, and we've maxed out the property. We will be able to fully develop the Innisfil site without having to spread beyond the property boundaries for over 100 years. Environmental protection and sustainability are important to RVH, and the site's natural elements will be protected and integrated into the site and the facility design. You can see how we'll incorporate the 4-acre woodlot along the west side of the property, as well as water features to create soothing views, green spaces, and walking paths that promote wellness and recovery. In fact, the woodlot, along with a 30-meter buffer around it, will be safeguarded by designating it an environmental protection zone. We'll also protect the property's wooded borders while enhancing the meadows and reinstating savanna landscapes to create new wildlife habitat. Environmental sustainability and green materials will be a key priority as we design and construct the facility. Our goal is to develop a South Campus that connects to nature and also connects to the community. For instance, think about a green path that could go from the public plaza entrance through the building with views onto nature and out to walking paths around the woodlot. Public spaces will be important in the site plan, particularly given the South Campus's proximity to the recreation center, the sports fields, and the farmers market across Yonge Street. RVH and the town of Innisfil have a shared vision for a community health and wellness. As we develop the more detailed site plan for the South Campus, we'll consult with residents on important issues such as building design and public spaces, green space, and environmental sustainability, lighting, and parking. We have consulted with environmental groups and will also continue to work closely with the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority to ensure the South Campus plan is aligned with the Lake Simcoe Protection Plan. Our region is fortunate to have Lake Simcoe as an incredible natural resource, and its importance can't be overstated as a source of water, food, and recreation. We know that protection of Lake Simcoe is especially important to Indigenous people. Building on previous consultations, we'll work closely with our First Nation partners, continuing to authentically engage them on this project and many other issues. The Barrie Area Native Advisory Circle has been an invaluable guide as RVH has introduced a hospital-wide smudging policy, cultural safety training, educational videos, self-identification protocols, and an Indigenous health team that includes a navigator, transitions facilitator, and a mental health and addictions navigator. Last week, we held our very productive consultation session. It was another one actually with the First Nation leaders, and we've already started to discuss how we can incorporate their ideas. We will continue to consult them to ensure the site plan safeguards the environment and the building design appropriately acknowledges and honors the significance of the land for Indigenous people. Immediately following the recent location announcement, we launched phase 2 of our engagement strategy, which includes intensive site-specific consultation. In addition to an online survey and an Innisfil-wide distribution of an information postcard, RVH reached out to stakeholders through the RVH and Town of Innisfil website, social media channels, consultation sessions with stakeholders such as Indigenous partners and environmental groups. We also held a community listening session during which I was really pleased to be joined by co-host Mayor Dolan and Deputy Mayor Davidson. We also launched a very robust media and digital campaign, including radio and newspaper ads. We had exciting information to share, and our community, was extremely interested in the news. In the 1 week following our location announcement, I can't believe this, but RVH logged 27,000 interactions with stakeholders and received an additional 1,000 comments. I want to share some of those engagement numbers from the past week because actually they're staggering. And they really speak to RVH's commitment to consult and to communicate with our community and with your constituents. There were 130,000 impressions through social media channels and 20,000 interactions. Those are sort of people who shared, liked, or clicked through our website. And that's just in 1 week. Newspapers, and particularly radio ads, had a reach of 16 million. Those are the potential times people heard the ads in rotation several times a day on several local stations. Our digital ad campaign reached 81,000 people, and more than 500 people have already provided feedback through our online survey. As I said, the numbers are remarkable and they're a testament to how important easily accessible healthcare is to people. You can learn more about stakeholder input in our community engagement report, which was included in your council package, or you can also read the report on our website. So far, the feedback falls within generally 5 themes. Overall, people are extremely supportive of the site and its central location. Many comments have noted the urgent need for a hospital in South Simcoe County and question how the timelines can be shortened. Residents continue to stress the need for accessibility by future public transit, plentiful and close parking, an accessible site and building, and clear wayfinding. Environmental protection and sustainability remain a high priorities as well, as a facility that promotes wellness by integrating natural features, green spaces, as well as traditional and holistic services and spaces. Now, some of you may ask, why isn't RVH locating the South Campus on the 50 acres of land donated to RVH more than a decade ago on the 6th line between Highway 400 and Yonge Street? While we are grateful for the 2009 donation from the Cortel Group, which was dependent on building a hospital on the site within 25 years, it is important to note that the cost of land, that's that blue dot in the rectangle at the bottom of the slide, represents a very tiny fraction of the cost to construct, maintain, and operate a hospital over time. The cost of RVH's One System 2-site capital project, including the North Campus expansion and the new South Campus at the 10-year mark, is estimated to be roughly $2.5 billion. Now compare that to the ongoing costs to run a facility the size of RVH, which today is far more than $1 million a day. So to put it in perspective, the operational costs of a hospital over 50 years are up to 200 times more than the land acquisition cost. I think this image really puts the relative cost into perspective. This South Campus will impact residents' healthcare for generations to come. So I should say again, RVH's most important consideration during its search was that we chose the right location. Technical experts assessed all sites using the same detailed criteria, including the property on the 6th line. And they all concluded that the chosen site at Yonge and Innisfil Beach Road is the best location for RVH's South Campus. Now, you may also ask, why now? Why the urgency to develop the South Campus? The biggest driving force is population growth. The population of South Simcoe County will continue to explode over the next 2 decades. In fact, it's going to double. Over 74,000 more people in Innisfil alone, and we know that the rate of growth has accelerated during the pandemic as people have relocated outside the GTA. So conservatively, over the next 20 years, 173,000 new residents will move to South Simcoe County, Barrie, and Springwater. That's equivalent to every resident in Oshawa moving to our area. So the total population will be the equivalent of London, Ontario, and London is 2 very large hospital corporations with several sites throughout the city. That explosive growth means RVH is bursting at the seams today. Prior to the pandemic, RVH's beds were full every day. In fact, occupancy rates were consistently over 115%. There were days during flu season when occupancy hit 135%. And I'm sorry to say that when beds are full, it creates gridlock throughout the hospital. Patients end up waiting for a bed in the emergency department and wait times grow. This year, before the pandemic, over 3,000 patients were cared for in hallways and makeshift spaces with no windows or private washrooms. One of the harsh lessons of the pandemic is that hospitals must not revert to hallway medicine. It just isn't safe. So we also have an aging population growing at a rate faster than the provincial average. In 25 years, Simcoe County will have over 107,000 more seniors than it has today, making up almost 30% of the population. And from a hospital perspective, that's a really important stat because seniors use hospital services 4 times more frequently than the rest of the population, and they also account for half the province's health budget. Our rapidly aging population is going to change our communities, and it's going to substantially increase the demands on healthcare. So not only is our population growing and aging, but unfortunately we have a lot of risk factors that impact the kind of healthcare we need in the future. Habits like smoking, drinking, and not exercising enough mean we aren't as healthy as our fellow Ontarians. In fact, almost 45% of our region's residents have a chronic condition, such as diabetes, heart disease, cancer, or respiratory illness, and 1 in 5 have multiple chronic conditions. Clinics at the South Campus will focus on wellness, preventing health conditions, and promoting healthy living before people need inpatient services. Therefore, based on population growth, aging, and health status, there is urgency to move forward with this project as soon as possible, so the opportunity is not lost. The property is currently designated agricultural, and RVH asks the town of Innisfil to request a ministerial zoning order, or an MZO, which will align us with the province's planning process and provide greater certainty of that the South Campus can be developed at this location. That certainty will also better position RVH to secure government approvals for our plan and allow us to conduct detailed site planning. Of course, an MZO does not change the requirement for good planning and broad consultation. Far from it. The site plan is still subject to all strict planning policies, including environmental protocols. We know Innisfil residents want a hospital built in their community yesterday. Well, so does RVH. But it's important to understand that the timeline to build a hospital is long and it's complex. And we can't risk delaying the South Campus. With the certainty that an MZO would bring, we can secure government approvals and government funding, get shovels on the ground faster, encourage public donations through our foundation's Moments Matter campaign, support Innisfil's priorities, advance an important healthcare project that will benefit area residents for generations to come, and boost economic recovery as the province emerges from the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, an infrastructure project this size has considerable economic benefits. The South Campus will produce significant employment. At maturity, with the South Campus built and the North Campus expanded, RVH will double its workforce with 3,000 additional full-time staff. Those are stable, well-paying jobs. And this is a very important consideration given that according to Stats Canada, more than 82% of Innisfil's employed residents commute out of town for work. Most of RVH's current employees and physicians live in Simcoe County, which means a lot of their spending stays in the local economy, on houses, at local grocery stores, restaurants, and of course, other businesses. Last year, RVH's payroll translated to a secondary economic impact, or a spin-off, of an estimated $256 million to the local economy. The economic spin-off from RVH's payroll by 2038 will be a staggering $870 million. We also know access to high-quality healthcare is a key consideration for residents and businesses thinking of relocating to a community. And hospitals drive businesses around them. Many of you remember what Georgia Drive looked like 25 years ago. And that ongoing economic boost doesn't factor in the construction period. Although it's too early in the planning to estimate the dollar value and the impact, we know RVH's 2012 expansion required a staggering 1.7 million person hours of work. And this project is 6 times larger. And our 2012 expansion, 80% of the tradespeople used on that project were local, as were many of the suppliers. I guess simply put, having a hospital in your community is also very good for business. Provincial certainty now will allow RVH to continue to work through the government's 5-stage planning approval process. We've already submitted the pre-capital submission to the province. Our plan has been endorsed by Ontario Health's Central Region, and we will submit stage 1 of our plan this fall. To allow us to move forward as quickly as possible through the remaining provincial stages, tonight we respectfully request and ask the Town Council to endorse RVH's requested ministerial zoning order and formally send a letter of request to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. This is a vitally important step in our journey, which will enable RVH to proceed with securing approvals and detailed site planning for the South Campus. So in closing tonight, as we collectively plan and embrace our exciting future, we also celebrate the past. RVH has a proud 124-year history of caring for people from throughout Barrie and South Simcoe County, and Innisfil has its own rich history. We were interested to learn that the village of Stroud was originally called Victoria. So how fitting that 170 years later, Victoria returns to your community. As Mayor Dolan so aptly said at the recent event, as we looked out over the South Campus property, This field is full of opportunity, and it's where our friends, neighbors, and loved ones' stories will be written. So thank you for imagining the future. Thank you for imagining the possibilities and for helping your community write those important stories. And now, Chair Charlotte and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation, Janice and Charlotte. Lovely to have you here on this historic evening. I was remiss right off the bat in not saying that Deputy Mayor Davidson sent his regrets this evening, and I know he would have loved to have been here for this very exciting evening. And I also wanted to thank our very own Barb Love, who's on the RVH Hospital Board, for all of the championing that she has done over the years. And now I'll pass it off to anyone who has a question or comment from members of council. Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you so much for that presentation, Ms. Scott, and it's great to have Ms. Wallace at our meeting today. As was brought up, the land where the hospital is going was owned by the Isis family. It was owned by my father and 3 of my uncles, and my farm business still farms that land, and it was just such an exciting time to be at the launch when it was announced that this is where our future hospital was going, and as I looked over the field that I had looked at, many times before, I looked at it in a totally different way, and with excitement for the future and the importance of what this project will bring to the town of Innisfil. So I wanted to share my excitement with everybody here, and it's great to be a small part of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ices. Other comments, questions? Councillor Sadi?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Scott and Ms. Wallace, for the presentation. And it was very exciting to be at the launch and see the shovels go in the ground. And as one of our residents, longtime residents, Mr. Gilchrist, had just said a little earlier, this is something that residents have been waiting for a long time. You stressed, you couldn't stress it enough about how much throughout Innisfil there was committees that were trying to find doctors to come to Innisfil to provide the necessary services that were needed. And we succeeded in that, and bringing in then the doctors at the Rosardo Center. But I am so excited to be on council at this time when this is coming on. And I'm sure that I speak for all of council, and that this is one of the proud moments that, that we recognize the importance of it. And as you mentioned, it's not happening overnight. It takes some time, but I want to commend you as well for the volume of the community involvement and how you've gone above and beyond in the expectation for environmental protection, the setbacks that exceeded what the municipality requires. Everything is above and beyond. And I think, just reading that report, it made you so impressed with all those details. And I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Orsatti. Any other comments? Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank Ms. Scott and Ms. Wallace for a great presentation. I think you answered a lot of questions in terms of how the site was selected. I want to thank the ISIS family for their help in terms of working with the hospital committee to make this come true. So I'm really proud of that. I think for me, I think being there the day of and seeing that view was absolutely gorgeous. I think you will stay true to your word in terms of making sure it's the most environmentally friendly, stable hospital that we can imagine. So I'm looking forward to this. And luckily enough, I'm young enough that I might be a senior to visit that hospital when it finally opens up. So I look forward to coming in with my wheelchair and present myself with minor ailments to be looked after. So I look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. Councillor Fowler.
Thank you, Worship. Three things come to mind when I'm watching your presentation. One, I want to thank you for taking the environment into effect. The potential to increase the environmentally protected land within the borders of Innisfil is a bonus for me, because by actually putting the hospital where you are, you're actually increasing it as opposed to removing it, which is over the long-term goal, something we're looking to do. Second of all, I want to say thank you for including the Indigenous population in the design and working with them. With all the things that have been going on as of late, this is a very, very important part of our community and culture as a country that it needs to be addressed as we move forward. And the third thing is, you mentioned jobs. The one thing I'd like to shine a light on is you mentioned 3,000 jobs once the hospital is built. Now, what many people are going to overlook in that is that the hospital just doesn't appear out of nowhere. We have thousands upon thousands of man hours that will go into constructing it. We will have the ability of contractors to hire youth from our communities to give them skill sets, train them for the future over a 10-year period, and actually create employment for those that seek knowledge in the trades. And this is an opportunity that will allow local businesses to foster that relationship with the young people who seek to build a future in our town. And this on top of the 3,000 jobs is something that will take place over the 10 years, and that excites me the most. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Fowler. Anyone else? I just want to thank you again. Both my children, 32 and 30 years ago, were born at RVH, the old one that was on, is it Wellington Street?
Ross Street?
Yes,
Ross.
that one.
Yeah.
But there's a really good chance my grandchildren will have their babies at that hospital. Mm-hmm. And when you talked about all the engagement, I'm probably responsible for about at least 1,000 of those social media likes and forwards. So guilty as charged. So thank you again very much. Now we are going to move right to the item C1, but we'll have ask for a mover and a seconder to receive the presentation, and that's Councillor Fowler and Councillor Van Berkel. All those in favor? That is carried. And now we will go to item C1. Questions or comments on the report? Councillor Van Berkel.
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, I am absolutely excited about this. All the years that I've been on council, I think that this is probably the best project of all. And if ever an MZO was warranted, I believe it's for this project. It not only helps the community, it helps the entire county and probably people from outside of the county. So I think that the MZO was made just for projects like this. I truly believe that the hospital and the hospital board and that are environmentally minded, and they will take every consideration there will, that's going to come along to protect that environment. So I wish they could put a shovel in the ground tomorrow, because I want to see this too. And I'm like 75 years old. So, let's hurry up and do this. You have my endorsement 100%. And I hope that I live to see it, because it is such an exciting project. Exciting for me, for my children, for my grandchildren, hopefully for my great-grandchildren, and for every constituent, every person that lives here in Innisfil, Barrie, and throughout the county. Thank you for selecting the site that you did. I think, that it's just an absolute great location across from the Rosardo Center, which was our first dream. It's across from our, town hall, basically, police station. It's across from the arena, the farmers market, as you have mentioned. It couldn't be in a better location. It's close to all highways and accessible by many different roads. I just can't see anything going wrong. I'm just excited about it. Get the bulldozers and the high hose out there. Get it done. Thank you.
Thanks, Counselor. Maybe we'll get you in one of those high hose. Put you back to work.
For free.
Counselor Nicol.
Your Worship, I wasn't sure if this was going to get pulled or just debated or just talked about right now, but I'm guessing that Councillor Van Berkel would be more than happy to move this. If not, I would be, and I'd be happy to second his motion if not. So just to get it on the table, but if it doesn't need to go to committee, I think this is an amazing opportunity for the entire community, and I don't think there's much debate required, but there may be just some conversations being had. But if Councillor Van Berkel was moving this, I'm happy to second it behind him because I think he's nailed it completely. He said everything that needed to be said. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a recommendation moved by Councillor Van Berkel and seconded by Councillor Nicol. Other comments or questions about the process, about the report? I want to thank Mary Nordstrom and Leo Deloyd for the mountains and mountains and mountains of work that they have put into this, along with staff at RVH for getting this report ready. I also want to acknowledge in the community engagement report and thank Mayor Lehman for his support and supportive selection of the site, and also Mayor Harry Hughes, and who's also a board member, and Mayor Allen from Springwater. So very much appreciate the support of communities that see the value of having a South Campus here in Innisfil. And I am more than happy to sign this request and send it off to Minister Clark as quickly as I can. I've given him a little hint that there might be one coming, so he's aware, but I look forward to making this official. And seeing no other hands, I will call for the vote. All in favor of the recommendation?
Your Worship, can we do a recorded vote on this? I think it's so important that, it should be recorded that everybody was in favor.
Thank
Can we
you.
do that?
Recorded vote requested by Councillor Van Berkel. I'll ask if the deputy clerk or the clerk is able to help us with that. Give them just a second to get everything in order.
Thank you, Your Worship. The clerk is just pulling out the recorded vote sheet, and we'll be with you momentarily.
Wonderful. The number of community members that have gotten behind this project is really quite remarkable. And I think one of the benefits of the MZO is being able to start the fundraising campaign and the excitement around our hospital and get that started. Mr. Parkin?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just pulling up the recorded vote sheets. I'm going to read through the list of names, and just a reminder that they're a randomized order. If members of council could indicate with your card, or if you turn your mic on and say In favor or against, and I'll mark your vote. Starting with Councillor Waters.
An enthusiastic in favor.
Councillor Van Berkel.
100% in favor.
Councillor Ices.
The newest hospital in favor of in Ward 1.
Councillor Fowler.
Definitely in favor.
Mayor Dolan.
Double yes in favor.
Councillor Payne.
Triple yes in favor.
Councillor Orsatti.
In favor.
And finally, Councillor Nickel.
On the topic, but proudly in favor. Thank you.
That's carried.
Congratulations, Council. Very excited. And we will make sure that in the letter to the province that we announce that it was a unanimous decision of Council. Thank you. Councillor Waters.
I would just like to mention that I do believe the hospital is in the Nottawasaga Region Conservation Authority area, so the watershed. So it's in Councillor Nichols' jurisdiction.
All right, everyone. We're all going to take ownership of it one way or the other. So thank you. So that is carried. And I want to thank again Ms. Scott and Ms. Wallace for being here this evening and this historical night for the town of Innisfil. And thank you for all the hard work and the tenacity that has made this happen. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much, Worship.
Good night.
Night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. And now 6.2, I'm going to ask for Director Deloy. It's going to be hard to follow that presentation, Director Deloy, but if anybody can do it, you can.
Oh, no pressure. What a wonderful night. We're talking about health, we're talking about environment, and we're talking about sustainability and the future of the city. So I think that's a great segue for our presentation. We're going to be presenting Sustainable Innisfil, and it's a roadmap to sustainability for the town. There's been a lot of policy work and notions and aspirations about sustainability, but what does it look like really? And what do we have to do, and how do we measure it? So tonight's presentation is to focus on those things. So next slide, please. Just to remind everybody, Grow Brundtland had set out the quintessential definition of sustainability, and that's meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And so that's been a guiding principle for over 40 years now. So, and that's guided a lot of action. So the next slide. So before I turn it over to our next presenter, I just want to mention the 3 takeaways tonight. So I think that one of them is that town prioritizes sustainability and community resilience. And resilience is becoming more and more important as climate change starts to get more and more traction. We want to develop a unified sustainability action framework, and we need to think about who's involved in that. Certainly it's town departments and operations and our fleets and that kind of thing. And certainly we have a development industry and other industries in town and businesses, and they have a role to play, and certainly the broader community. So we're trying to put together an integrated approach for those 3 key players in the community. And lastly, we want to connect and align our community with well-established groups that are already out there and operating, and maybe some of them are a little bit ahead of us, and we want to take advantage of what they know. We're not into reinventing wheels. There's software, there's programs, there's practices, and we want to take advantage of those. So those are the 3 key aspects for tonight. So at this point, I just want to introduce the next speaker, our newest staff member, Naharika Bandaru. And Naharika has some experience in municipal government in Essex County, but more as important, she has a background in engineering and has completed a master's degree in sustainability at Johns Hopkins University. So she's got a lot of experience and a network that goes way into the United States academic circles. So we're very happy to have her on board. And I think at this point, I would just like to turn it over to Naharika, and she'll give you the presentation of how we're conceiving how all this is going to come together. Thank you. Next slide.
Thank you so much, Leo, for that wonderful introduction. And it is my complete honor and pleasure to meet you, Council, and to be able to bring this report in front of you. And even more exciting is to possibly embark on this journey with such an innovative and energized town. As Leo stated, sustainability has remained a high priority for the town of Innisfil. And it's not new at the town. In fact, we have identified it as a strategic priority in our community strategic plan, as well as one of the 3 pillars in the town's official plan. Now, this aligns us with larger policy frameworks at the federal and international levels as well, which embody targets to reduce carbon emissions, as well as to adapt to the impacts of climate change. Next slide, please. So, some examples of the work we've already conducted or those that are underway currently include several considerations in the Transportation Master Plan and Growth Management Strategy, as well as focused efforts like the Land Lake Plan and Habitat for Humanity Passive House Project, just to name a few. Now, that being said, what we need moving forward is to transform these singular, perhaps department-specific efforts into a cohesive, unified, synchronized strategy that will ensure long-lasting sustainability, especially in the face of a growing population. Now, the reason why, next slide, please, are these. Now, these are climate projections for the town of Innisfil, and they indicate that we are rolling towards a greater intensity and frequency of various weather phenomena with greater unpredictability in their occurrence. The daily averages of temperatures and precipitation will also be changing in a way that may seem unrecognizable from the past and even the present. Not only do these increase health, infrastructure damage, economic loss risk, but also lower environmental health, like the watershed around Lake Simcoe and the lake itself, and community wellness as well. In fact, we're already experiencing some of these changes. For example, next slide, please. The tornado that made landfall this year in the region quite literally blew us away. Tornadoes are not new, but their frequency and intensity of occurrence is projected to worsen with climate changes, costing us so much more in health and resources. Now, the city of Barrie alone spent $350,000 of their emergency response funding in cleanup and as well as in emergency response. Next slide, please. Another example of is of this major rainfall event that happened in Innisfil last year that flooded several properties and stalled mobility across town. Rain on snow is extremely hazardous to community health and safety. In fact, to put into perspective how much flooding we've experienced in the region, I have this map on the next slide from the Conservation Authority. And this shows the number of recorded flood events that have occurred in the last 10 years in the Lake Simcoe watershed. So that's on the top left, over 25% of which have been in Innisfil alone. And that's all of those pink circles that you see on the map on the right. What this continues to test is the resilience of our infrastructure, emergency response, our affordability, and our overall adaptability. It threatens the way of life that we know and cherish in and around Lake Simcoe. Next slide, please. And then talking of Lake Simcoe, lake ice is also extremely vulnerable. Climate modeling predicts that this will only continue and that the duration of open water will significantly increase in the next couple of decades. This will add to the other factors that we just discussed as well. So this brings me back to the rationale for a strategized framework. As a local government, we will be on the front lines of safeguarding the resilience of our community to all of these changes. By planning ahead and tactically, we will carefully consider all of these projections, where we are at today, and how to move ahead. This will allow us to invest in the ability to reduce our impact on climate change and reduce our risk from it, recover faster, and continue to thrive. Next slide, please. So in order to lower our own impact on climate change and reduce risk from climate change, as well as use the opportunity to address overall sustainability at the town and in the community, our guiding objectives will be these. These objectives have been generated by focusing and concentrating common themes from various official town policies, documents, and projects. These will be used as a lens to assess current levels of sustainability across town departments and community sectors as well. Next slide, please. So actions to achieve those objectives within an integrated framework would involve looking into all relevant community sectors. For example, investing in low carbon communities and a healthy built infrastructure. Another one would be including climate impacts in emergency planning and response. A third one could be supporting agricultural resilience and overall industry greening. Next slide, please. The objectives and actions to achieve that vision of a sustainable Innisfil within all of these impact sectors will be guided through three primary pathways or categories. So mitigation, adaptation, and operational sustainability. So mitigation actions, so let me just clarify this a bit more because these terms mean different things within the industry. Mitigation actions are all those actions implemented towards reducing emissions and reducing energy use and carbon management. So those go from switching from fossil fuels to renewable energy, electrifying the fleet, and just including a lot more energy efficient technology within our daily operations. Adaptation, on the other hand, are those actions that are implemented towards building resilience and facing and preparing for the impacts of climate change that are already occurring or are going to occur. So those include things like incorporating low impact development in all of our development projects, changes in agricultural practices. So what new plants and crops can be grown in the region, not now that climate change is bringing about temperature changes, and overall medical preparedness. Now, operational sustainability actions, it's an umbrella category that is essentially a catch-all for all those things geared towards generally reducing waste and becoming more efficient at resource use in our current operations, as well as preserving the environment, whether the impacts of climate change occur or not. So all of these will, when combined together, they form an integrated sustainability master plan. This ISMP will be a guide for all town departments and personnel on short, medium, and long-term actions. They will assign lead departments to various actions, assign timelines, and the associated mechanisms for accomplishing these. This will be an energy plan, an adaptation plan, and sustainability plan for corporate and community actions, all packaged into one. So you can call it this town sustainability Bible if you wish. Next slide, please. And you can click. There'll be a couple of animations. Thank you. What we have here on this slide is the basis for a development strategy for the sustainability master plan. And this will be a phased approach. We want to start with establishing a baseline at step one, which will involve benchmarking current efforts, building an inventory of current emissions and energy use. Then once we've received that data and once we know where we're at, we want to set direction, which will be phase two. So we use that information from previous phase to set specific targets, milestones, and timelines on where we want to be and by when. The third step would be action planning, which would be creating individual actions by working with departments and community partners to achieve targets, acquiring the corresponding tools and programs, and also investigating funding avenues. And then once we've done that and created a draft sustainability master plan, at the fourth stage of adoption, we want to present that to council, the draft plan, seek comments for any revisions, and then seeking adoption after any revisions. And at stage 5 or phase 5, once we've received council support, we want to implement all of the actions in the plan and monitor progress as well. And monitoring progress is important because we will know how much we've progressed since the inception of the plan and where we were, and also allow us to make any changes if necessary. Click again, please. The process will also include the continued development of policies that will support the master plan, like the ones mentioned on the slide. Now, this entire process includes comprehensive engagement of town staff, as well as the community and industry. An important part of the process would also be developing and leveraging partnerships to acquire the required tools and support that will help us achieve our goals. Next slide, please. For example, the Partners for Climate Protection program. Now, this is a federally funded program guiding municipalities through emissions and energy use reductions. They provide technical support, training resources, as well as access to a strong municipal network across Canada. This program is entirely free for municipalities to join, and joining this program would help us plan solutions specifically to lower municipal energy use and emissions reductions. Next slide, please. And this is just a map to show where all of the municipalities that are currently participating in this program are located. And the pop-out shows some of our friends and neighbors who have signed up as well. So if council does support this membership, this would be our first act towards building a sustainability master plan. Next slide, please. And some of the other next steps following council support and their associated timelines are shown here on the slide. We will continue to improve and elaborate the phased strategy and put some more details on there and the timelines with each phase as well. However, we do plan on completing the work on sustainable development standards for land use and orbit by the end of Q1 in 2022, and phase 1 of the master plan by the Q2. We will simultaneously connect with local organizations, leaders, municipalities, and Indigenous groups as well during this time to gather all that knowledge to help us plan for the work ahead. And next slide, please. And with that, we come to the end of the presentation. I'd really like to thank council for receiving this presentation and the report. I look forward to launching forward on this work that can truly put our community on a pathway of resilience and future opportunity. And I'll leave you with this slide here and ask you for your comments or questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Banderu. Welcome to Innisfil, first of all, and boy, you really hit the ground running. That's awesome work so far. Questions or comments from members of council? Councillor Waters, why am I not surprised?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to say it was a very good presentation and welcome to Innisfil. I just want to say I'm really impressed with the work done so far. They've hit all the key elements of putting a strategic plan, strategic sustainability plan together in terms of, coming up with baselines, targets, action plans, and then, the whole thing about implementing them and then monitoring them to see if we've been successful. And there's no sense continuing a program that's not successful. So I think that whole process that they've set up and is starting to implement is a foundation for success for this program. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this implemented over the next few years. And I think it will also, which is really quite important, it'll give the town much more needed credibility when it comes to the environmental groups. We have seen a few negative comments coming from our friends, environmental groups, about the orbit and a few other items, and that's because they didn't see the plan, how we were going to hold developers put their feet to the fire. And so this going along parallel with all those types of developments, the passive house, the hospital, now says that, you know, we're serious about this, and we want Innisfil to be a very, very sustainable, healthy community. And I think this all gets packaged together really well. So I'm encouraged that also included in this is a whole piece around serious engagement with these groups to make sure they're a part of the solution and we take what they have to say seriously, so that they can buy into these really important projects, which are going to define Innisfil for the next 20 to 30 years. So good for the team so far. Look forward to seeing more and hearing more from this group. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Deloitte.
Oh, I think that's it, Mayor. That's our presentation. We're really anxious to get on with the work and the metrics and all the aspects. I should mention Tim Kane and Karen Shea had some involvement as well. So I just want to appreciate all the help we've had in putting this together. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Deloitte. I just saw you took your mic off, so I thought you might have had a comment. Councillor Ices.
Yes, thank you, Worship, and thank you very much for that presentation. It's obviously a very important topic that affects everything in the town. I guess I have a little bit of a question. Mr. Deloitte, you mentioned that we weren't going to develop a new wheel here. We were going to lean on some other other support from other groups that are working on this. I'm just a little concerned when I read one of the top phrases about changing agricultural production. And is there a little bit of an overreach in some of this where I have no problem controlling the departments that we have and the plans that we have with our building our cities, but this topic is being dealt with federally and provincially, and to go into it with preconceived ideas, I guess I'm just a little concerned about when I see that statement right off the bat. Agriculture does contribute to climate change. We don't deny that. I think the numbers are around 24% come from agriculture. So we do have some changes that we need to do, but I just think for a town to have that as one of their top priorities speaks to be a little bit of an overreach. So I'm wondering if you could comment on that.
Mayor, sustainability is everybody's business, and there's the town and its operations has to mind its own business. The community has a big role in playing in achieving sustainability, and I would suggest that the development industry, the agricultural industry, and the other industries have a role to play. So there was no intention of being prescriptive, but if we go it alone and the others don't do anything, we're not going to achieve everything we could achieve and be all that we could be in the sustainability realm. So that's the spirit. It's not prescriptive, and we would engage through the various engagement practices that we talked about in this to work with agriculture and other industries. But basically, they have to come to the table, and then the agriculture was the original stewards of the land, so we see them as being very important in this process. But it's not intended to be prescriptive. It's something we need to work on. Thank you.
Just follow up then. Yeah. So then, I do take it a little bit personally that when that phrase is up change the practices. My question would be, you know, what is the practice that we're looking to change? And maybe that's not the intent, but
No.
you know, farmers and those working in agriculture work very hard to make the food that we eat sustainable, and we are changing to reflect that. So my question would be to the phrase that was on there. You know, what are the practices that we're looking to change? And I guess that's where I would maybe change the flavor of how that was
Sure.
communicated. So thank you.
Through you, Mayor, I've got, I don't know, 30 years experience working with the Great Lakes cleanup, and Naharika's a member of one of the federal boards on the Great Lakes water quality. So there may be some opportunities to, you know, curb phosphorus and other loadings. We're being asked to do that at municipal level. I think we need to be, you know, the other industries have to look at protecting the lakes and the waterways. So I think we would have to all come to the table and hash it out, as other jurisdictions have done with, you know, the stakeholders. And then that's one thing. The other thing is the best practices. There are a lot of really good best practices in Canada, but also in Europe and around the world. And some of these efforts we're talking about will bring best practices, but ultimately it's up to the community to decide how they're going to handle it. The town is in no position to prescribe how farmers operate, that kind of thing. So that was not intended.
Councillor Waters?
I think the first person who's going to know that there's something changing on their property are going to be the farmers. They're going to know that climate change is having an impact on what's going on, because they're there on the land every single day. And I think they're going to be the first people who are going to want to, they want to maximize their efficiency of their property. And I think that the town is just there to help if there's needed help, but it's more of a partnership to work with our the farmers. We want to maintain this rural lifestyle that we have, and we want to make sure that farmers are successful. So it's working. I think it's working with farmers to make sure that they survive, and in the near future, because that's supposed to be a big part of what Innisfil is. We're supposed to be narrowing down where we're going to develop, and that farmland is supposed to stick around. So I think it's a partnership with the farmers in the community to make sure that everyone succeeds, and that we end up with an environment and wellness that is pleasable to everyone.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Orsatti.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think that the report that's in the agenda, I think it's going to, point 3 in the report talks about the Sustainable Development Plan and Checklist for the Orbit. And I think that's going to give a lot of comfort to a lot of residents who are worried about the process of the orbit and how it was going to be developed. And I think there's small wins here that residents will start to see, how to achieve the sustainable Innisfil vision, minimizing resource use in municipal operations such as fuel and salt is mentioned in here. And all we have to do is look at some of our neighboring municipalities that have won awards and doing something different with the salt. So we don't have to recreate the wheel, but we can find out what they're doing and take those, and residents will start to learn about the differences that we're doing in our community. So I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. Very informative.
Thank you, Councillor Orsatti. Any other comments? I wanted to just, go ahead, Councillor Member.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I was sitting here listening to everybody and the presentation, and I kind of think that it's a good thing that the municipalities are getting involved more and more in this, rather than being dictated to by, the higher ups, the province and the feds. I mean, I think it gives us an opportunity to say what we want to do and how we want to control it rather than being told. And yeah, there is, I agree with Councillor Ices that, you know, there's a lot of unknowns there. But it's not only the farm industry, it's all the industries. I mean, we're going to have something to say about it, which we basically haven't had. And to have a representative from our community on these boards and bring back to council to let council and you know, the entire town of Innisfil know, let them know what's going on. I think that'll bring some kind of, you know, peace to some of these people that have been protesting about orbits and about the way we do things. I think it gives whoever the representative's going to be a little bit of clout to say, you know, we're doing this because, or basically we're trying to protect what we're doing here. We're trying to protect, this is for in your interest, not in ours. It's in everybody's interest. So I kind of feel that it's not a bad thing.
Thank you, Councillor. I think it's going to be a great opportunity. We're so fortunate to have in Innisfil many very enthusiastic people who, you know, come before us and tell us how we can do things better. And this will give, hopefully they'll work with us and share this knowledge with us so we can incorporate all of their ideas and into our sustainability goals. And I look forward to everyone in Innisfil with that passion to reach out to Ms. Banderoo and also to Councillor Ices. I think everybody should not throw stones if they live in a glass house. I think all of us have needs, need to make changes in our everyday life and in whatever business we're in, and best practices, we all try to follow them and learn from each other. And I think this is a really great initiative to gather all those ideas and put them in one place and come up with targets that we can live by. I mean, if somebody told me 20 years ago that I would be putting all my, you know, stinky, icky, rotten vegetables and meat bones in a green bin and carting it out to the curb, I wouldn't have believed you. But we do make different changes and more sustainable changes, and I'm really looking forward to having this kind of a focus, something that was in our strategic plan. So we'll ask for a mover and a seconder to receive the presentation right now, and with thanks very much for being here. And then when we get to item C2, I'm sure somebody will pull it at that time. So I would ask then for a mover and a seconder to receive the delegation be received with thanks, and that'd be Councillor Orsatti, Councillor Fowler. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
And next on the agenda is the municipal associations. Any, as those of you watching may or may not know, council meetings are just the tip of the iceberg, and each councillor is dedicated to other boards and commissions on behalf of the town and representing the town. And if anybody had any updates from any of the boards that they sit on. Seeing none, I'll go to the Emergency Operations Center for an update, please. Ms. Ray, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Council. We have updates from the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit. Our region is seeing a decline in cases along with a reduction in hospitalizations, which is good news. We anticipate hearing from Health Canada regarding vaccines from 5 to 11-year-olds in November. This may lead to reopening mass immunization clinics. HU has also reported that they have made some headway with vaccinations in ethnically diverse and low-income populations. SMDHU recently sent a letter of instruction for indoor facilities used for sports and recreation activities stating that effective November 25th, proof of vaccination is required for coaches, teachers, instructors, officiators, coaches, teachers, instructors officiating at organized sports. We have also learned that some municipalities are starting to return to in-person council meetings. SMDHU will be providing guidance on this soon, and EOC and staff will use this to help plan for our future council meetings. Other town updates: Stroud, Lefroy, and Innisfil Recreational Complex Red Rink are open and running. Only renters, participants, and spectators are permitted inside. Our live streaming is working well at Lefroy and at the IRC for those who don't want to or cannot attend facilities in person. Please note that we accept paper vaccination receipts as well as QR codes at all town arenas. The Remembrance Day Committee is planning a virtual service to be broadcast on Town of Innisfil social media channels starting at 10:50 a.m. on November 11th. The service team has returned to Town Hall 5 days a week, and they're looking forward to seeing the community in person. But a reminder that all of our online services that you've become used to throughout the pandemic are still available at innisfil.ca. The province has amended OREG 364/20, lifting capacity restrictions for certain venues such as restaurants and gyms, and including an opt-in provision for other venues, such as personal care service settings that implement proof of vaccination requirements. The town is looking at how these changes impact our recreational facilities, meeting rooms, and special events. Despite the regulations, SMDHU is reminding us of the importance of preventative measures, such as face coverings and physical distancing.
Thank you, Ms. Ray, very much for that update. Anybody else think of anything while she was speaking? So I do have one update. It was from County Council, and I'm sure top of mind for a lot of our residents, and that is the introduction Monday of the new waste contract with Miller Waste. There was a County Council meeting that started at 9 o'clock yesterday morning, and then a waste workshop that started at 11 and went till 5:30. So 6.5 hours of talking about garbage carts. So what we've come up with is County Council is behind the automated system. We really had no choice but to go with the automated system after 2 years of interrupted services, late services, missed services due to labor shortages with the current waste contractor. So the idea with the automated system is it widens the labor pool so that there's more people can do the job and there's less WSIB claims for slips and falls. It's proved to be true because the recruitment for the new drivers and the new system has gone really well. About half of the operators are coming from the old operator and half of them are new to this system. And one of the big complaints we've been getting is about, particularly in Sandy Cove area, is about the size of the bins. So the original plan was to wait until July when we did a survey and then decided at that time whether to offer different sized bins. But County Council yesterday decided to accelerate that plan. So in about mid-January, there will be an option to reduce the size of either the recycling cart or the garbage cart. And it'll take probably, they'll start delivering those around the end of February. It takes that long for us to order and get manufactured the different cart sizes. So what I ask the residents to do now is to measure the use. So after Christmas, after all the packaging and the wrapping paper and turkey carcasses and so on, measure how much of that, if you can afford to go to a smaller size or whether you actually do meet that capacity. typically what we've heard from other areas like Peel Region is that over 50% of the people, when they were underestimated the size they would need and had to size up. We also want to be very careful we don't end up with people with the smallest possible bin and then bags and bags of overflow beside it, because that defeats the purpose of having these automated trucks, so that we can not have the drivers have to leave the truck and manually pick up as much as possible. So that's it in a nutshell. And I just wanted to say that please be patient. We totally acknowledge that this is a brand new system and change is hard. And yes, I had to rearrange everything in my garage to fit those things in there. But I did it. And it will take the trucks some time to figure it out as well. There's new drivers, they don't know the routes, they don't know Innisfil. So just be patient. And also, if you always typically had your garbage picked up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon so you could put it out at noon, that's gone because all the routes are new. So 7 o'clock in the morning, it needs to be at the curb, regardless of where you live in or what your garbage date is. The good news is the trucks all have GPS, so we'll know where they've been and what they missed. And also they have a camera. So if you're late putting out your garbage and you phone Simcoe County and say, oh, no, it was out there early, they'll be able to tell, because the little camera that goes down the street will know whether or not there was any carts on the street that day. So bear with us. And the good news is that everybody who has these now, all the municipalities and had the same amount of people against them, all turned around and within weeks learned to love them. So I put that out there for you, and we'll now move on to the consent agenda item. Councillor Waters.
Just I've had a few residents call me from particularly in courts, and it's been the same comments, is that when they're in a court, is that there's very little side yard for them to put these larger bins, and so they're quite concerned that it's now it's in the middle of their driveway, and so because everyone, as the lots come forward, they get narrower and narrower. So that was one of the concerns. So I did send those concerns through to customer service to get a response. But I was just wondering whether or not those people might have an opportunity to go with the smaller bins as well, if space is short supply in strictly the courts. So I visited 2 courts, and they both seem to have the same problem. So I just thought I'd throw that out there, and hopefully that will be an option to help these people, resolve their space issue.
Absolutely. If there is, everybody in Simcoe County can choose to go to a smaller bin regardless of where you live. The only option I would say is don't go to a smaller bin if you generate more garbage. But keep in mind, there's only 2, all 3 don't go out together. There's only 2 that go out per week. The garbage in the green, and then the recycling in the green the next week. And I'm in the same boat. I live on a main street. There's on-street parking on both sides. So the only place I can put mine out is at the end of my driveway. So that's what I will do. Councillor Van Berkel?
Hey, Your Worship, I had a call, which is kind of a silly call, I think, but I'll ask it anyway, in case people are listening. In the advertisement, they really emphasize it's got to be 2 feet apart. What is if it's 2'6" apart or 1'10" apart?
Yeah.
Are they not going to pick it up, or are they going to, or is there like 6 or 8 inches of leniency there between garbage cans?
I would suggest a minimum. It doesn't matter if it's over 2 feet, but for them safely to work these arms, they're wanting 2 feet between the between the cart and any other object. But also remember too, it can be 8 feet back from the traveled roadway. So up to 8 feet back from the traveled roadway. So it doesn't have to be right on the curb if the driveways get wider, if you understand my point.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I feel like I know after 6.5 hour meeting, I know more about garbage than anybody would want to know in their entire life, but we'll move on now to the consent agenda, if that's all right with everyone. So item A1, special council minutes for October 13th. A2, council meeting minutes updated October 13th. B1, the Innisfil Heritage Advisory Committee meeting. B2, the Pitchin Committee meeting. B3, the Innisfil Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting. And B4, the Remembrance Day Committee meeting. Councillor Van Berkel?
I don't think I have to pull it, Your Worship, just an update that it is going to be virtual this year again. It's on YouTube. When the committee originally started, the sanctions or whatever weren't lifted yet. We were still in the COVID mode, and we were afraid that, we wouldn't be able to control it. So this year it'll still be virtually.
Thank you. Next is item C1, which we've already dealt with. So for anybody who joined late, we dealt with C1, the RVH campus MZO request preceding the presentation, and it passed unanimously with much excitement. C2, sustainability Innisfil. Councillor Nicol, you want to pull that?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. C3, the bench dedication program. I'd like to pull that if somebody would move it for me. C4, Alcona Downs Forest servicing allocation and lift holding provision. D1, staff report for the building permits issued in Q3. And D2, the tender award for the Park Road and Innisfil Beach Park drainage improvements. Seeing none, we'll go to E, bylaws. There's no bylaws this evening and there's no correspondence for action. Item G has the Innisfil Library Board minutes and the MCEA for the stormwater management plan update for Innisfil flooding. Seeing none, all right. We have moved by, can I have a mover and a seconder, please, for the consent list? Councillor Waters, Councillor Payne, all those in favor? Thank you. And we had items C2 and C3. So items, or to resolve into committee. Sorry, I always forget that resolution. Mover and a seconder to resolve into committee the whole, please. Councillor Fowler and Councillor Nicol, all those in favor? That's carried. And Councillor Nicol, C2.
Your Worship, if I give the seconder just get on the floor, I just have a recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Van Berkel. In listening to the report and knowing what we've dealt with in the last 3 years and meeting all of our new council members, I don't think there's anyone that's more qualified, acutely in tune, or more appropriate to be on this committee. And I would truly like to recommend that Councillor Alex Waters is the councillor for this. Going forward, I don't think there's anybody that's more. He's an asset and an expert in this field, and it would be great for the staff and for the community for him to be a part of this. So I just don't know if there's anybody else that's more qualified for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. First, I see some hands, but I'm going to go to Councillor Waters first to see if he is agreed to this work.
I'd love to represent council on the committee, and I look forward to reporting back a lot of the positive things that are going on, but also to reflect council's comments back to the committee. So I look forward to it. I am really honored to be asked, and so I will do my utmost to make everyone proud of what Innisfil is doing.
Thank you, Councillor. Other questions or comments on this? Councillor Fowler?
Thank you, Your Worship. To mirror Councillor Nichols' thoughts, the proof is in the pudding. If you take a look at the house that Councillor Waters lives in, he walks the walk and he on top of talking the talk. So everything he's doing, he's living the dream.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Van Berkel?
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree with both Councillor Nichols and Councillor Fowler. That's why I seconded it. I think he's the most qualified person on council to handle that position.
Thank you, Councillor Orsatti.
You see me shaking my head in agreement. I think we can all, probably agree that it's, we look at the skills of this team, and I say a team because we have a great council, and Councillor Waters' skills and background is perfect for this position, and I look forward to his involvement and commitment to it, and as he mentioned, reporting back to residents and this council.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I wanted to echo the comments so far that, and also thank Councillor Waters for taking on this role, and I know he'll do a great job, and he'll bring all the stakeholders to the conversation, and Innisfil will benefit from that. So thank you, Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Councillor Ices, and you can invite Councillor Waters over to the farm and show him all of the sustainability practices that farmers are doing.
For sure.
Thank you. All in favor of the recommendation? That is carried unanimously. And then I pulled item C3, and I just wondered if, I don't want to change it. I just wondered if somebody would move it in seconder. So moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Orsatti. I just wanted to briefly bring it up, and I think it's a great move, and I think it's something that the community is very interested in. But I also believe that it's something that we need to expand on. I think we need to make sure that when residents want to donate to their community, we should make it as easy as possible for them to do that. And whether it's a bench or other, other items, other ways to give to their community, that we can make that happen. And so I just wanted to make that comment. Any other comments on this report? Councillor Orsatti?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I was happy to see the benches and as you mentioned, expansion of this program. In past, many municipalities, communities would have an opportunity for a tree to be dedicated for someone or a business. But the problem when it's trees is the tree dies or gets diseased or infested and has to be removed. It's quite traumatic for people. So it makes sense when it's, bricks on a building, a walkway, benches, something like this. So I'm happy to see it. Now I was very pleased to see the report and in support.
Councillor Van Berkel.
Thank you, Your Worship. We've always been able to, donate a tree at the Arboretum. The Arboretum's always accepted. I know when my father and my mother died, we planted a tree for each at the Arboretum and put a little plaque on it. So that's still available to residents.
Thank you, Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a question for someone who wants to donate a bench. Do they have a choice as to where the bench can be, or is it a town staff a choice as to where it should go?
There was a list of the parks in there, but I'll go to Ms. Bowman. Are you the person to ask?
I'll take the question tonight, Your Worship,
Okay.
and through you. To answer the question, yes, we have numerous options. We have some lovely and very new benches throughout a number of our parks that would be available for the existing bench dedication. Should one of those existing locations not be to the liking of that person who's applying, there is an option to place a new bench in a different location. It's a bit more costly due to the infrastructure requirements that are needed to place one there, but we're very willing to work with someone in order to find a location that's meaningful, but also appropriate for that type of installation.
Okay, thank you for that, because I think, if it's for a memorial bench, then it could be a certain spot that one person always went to, that they would like to have that bench there. So I just wondered if that would be a possibility. Thank you.
Ms. Bowman, is it just cost recovery, the amounts that are in here, or is there a donation factor in it as well?
There's a bit of a blend in this case. For a new bench, the infrastructure costs are quite high. For an appropriate concrete pad, the addition of the new bench itself, the prep work that has to go into that, that is quite costly, and so that's more of a cost recovery effort. The 1,200 is much more in line with the existing bench models in other locations. So we did a bit of a municipal survey. We're actually on the lower side for the existing bench. There is a bit of a donation component in there that will contribute to the ongoing maintenance of the bench and the area around it.
Wonderful, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the recommendation? That is carried. Next, we'll have the RISE recommendation, please, moved by Councillor Ices and seconded by Councillor Waters. All those in favor? That is carried. And next is consideration of the adoption of the recommendations from Committee of the Whole, and that's moved by Councillor Van Berkel and seconded by Councillor Orsatti. All those in favor? Carried. Next, we'll have notices of motion. There are none, and so we'll go to announcements. Announcements from members of council. Councillor Fowler.
Thank you, Your Worship. Many will remember last year with Movember, I did a bit of fundraising where I ended up losing all my locks. It was so much fun that I am going to be doing it again this year. However, I put a little twist on it. I have challenged the councillor from Ward 5 from Bradford, Councillor Ferragini, to a tete-a-tete of sorts. We're going to each try to raise more money than the other and represent our town for the month of November, him doing it directly for November. Myself, I am going to be doing it for RVH. I have a page set up, Ken Fowler for rvh.ca. And I'm looking to raise some money to get, it's an image-guided ultrasound machine. It's image-guided, it allows for image-guided prostate biopsies that are actually less invasive to individuals and helps ease the process. It apparently, in studies, it actually eases people's minds when they go in for cancer surgery, and it's more comfortable. Few stats, we've had over 1,200 people go into RVH in this past year for prostate cancer alone. So I'm looking to rally the troops and represent Innisfil and remind Bradford of their place, so to speak, and with this, because when no matter who raises more money, everybody wins. But I just want to put an Innisfil stamp on it, just to poke them a little bit, if I can.
Thank you for that, Councillor Fowler. Anyone else have any? Councillor Orsatti.
Thank you. Just to remind or letting our public know that this Saturday, between 11 and 3. Different members of council will be at both the Cookstown and Lakeshore libraries handing out candy. And there is also the opportunity for residents to have green screen shots with Halloween themed backgrounds. So it's a great opportunity to get involved and have some fun.
Thank you, Councillor. That's bonanza and spooktacular. Councillor Nicol.
Your Worship, just for clarification, in Cookstown, myself, my son Wyatt, and the mayor will be just in front of the Cookstown Chamber of Commerce office, the old library. We'll be doing the candies and giveaways there. So there's still be things going on at the library itself, but the members of council by the chamber office, just for clarification.
Thank you. Other announcements? Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Worship. I wanted to draw some attention to the Innisfil Sports Hall of Fame that council endorsed earlier this year. Town staff has put a call out to get some stories that can go in there, and you can see the form to send your stories in on the town website. And the guidelines, I'll just read them here. Highlight an individual team or organization who has demonstrated an outstanding level of athletic achievement that has been recognized locally, provincially, nationally, or internationally in a competition or event. Or highlight an individual team or organization who has meaningfully contributed to Innisfil sport and recreation community by dedicating time or providing a service to a team, league, or facility. So the staff would love it if we could get some great stories on the individuals that are described there. And I know there's many in Innisfil, and it would be a great start to get our Sports Hall of Fame up and going. So the deadline on that is December 1st, so you have a bit of time.
Thank you, Councillor. A bunch of names were going through my head when you were saying that. Any other announcements? I want to just say how much I enjoyed going to the Innisfil Minor Baseball Association's take on their typical year-end party. Of course, it wasn't a party, but it was a physically distant celebration where many awards were handed out for the volunteers in that group, and it was lovely to attend that. I'm also looking very much forward to Friday and Saturday night touring around Innisfil to look at the decorated homes, and thank Jennifer Richardson for all of the effort and work that she puts into that contest every year. It's just, there's lots and lots of enthusiasm for Halloween decorating. And then lastly, November 6th and 7th at the Lakeshore Library is the Innisfil Autumn Art Show and Sale. It runs on Saturday and Sunday, both days. So lots to look forward to. Councillor Arsati.
Sorry, I'm not on the committee, but just as a reminder, tomorrow is, I believe, the last day for the farmers market held at the rec center for the season from 1 to 6. Just saw a post coming up on Facebook. Also, I think, Your Worship, there is a pumpkin walk that is being held on November 1st. If you have more, if you want to share that information, I'll let you speak on that one then.
Okay, thank you. It's the brainchild of Marge Mossman. Many of you know Marge, and she used to be involved in these in Toronto. So you take your Halloween pumpkin the day after Halloween, November the 1st, to Innisfil Beach Park around, I think it was around 5 o'clock, 4:30, and then they'll be lit, and you can go on a Halloween pumpkin lit walk. Thanks for the reminder, Councillor Sadi.
Just a correction that the pumpkins have to be there in the daytime so that by 5 o'clock, all the volunteers have them all placed in the walkway and lit up. And then they're all donated to rescue or something for animals afterwards.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Seeing no other announcements, anything for the good of the corporation, CAO Gershow?
Thank you, Your Worship. Nothing to add tonight.
Thank you. I should have given you a heads up that I was going to do that. Okay, so that's it for tonight. So that's our announcements. So we'll have our confirming bylaw, please, moved by Councillor Van Berkel and Councillor Arsati. All those in favor? That is carried, and our adjournment. And that is moved by Councillor Nicol and seconded by Councillor Fowler. All those in favor? Thank you so much. Thank you to all of staff for being here tonight, and thank you for those on live stream that have been watching, and we'll see you all in a couple of weeks. Take care, everyone. Good night.
Good night, everybody.